inventory lab. So I've seen that you propose something similar to them, and then you propose also you have also the 2D barcode option. So that would be like a mix between inventory lab and 2D workflow that I personally would be looking for. So that's why I asked for the demo and see how it works, just to have a better idea of how everything works.
Yeah, and I'd say that that's a good assessment. So ScanPower is kind of two things. One, we have a mobile app, and that app also works online on the web, so it can be used for OA sourcing as well as retail sourcing. But that's probably a much smaller part of what we do now than people realize. And mostly what we do is listing and shipping and box contents and prep center, 3PL support. We do some things that Inventory Lab does. Some people like their supplier profitability report and their inventory valuation better than ScanPower, but we also do a lot of things that they don't do, and we also do a lot of things that 2D workflow doesn't do. So this will be a way for me to show you some of those things, and then obviously we want to answer any questions that you have or questions.
Yeah, so just to start things off, just a small question that I had in my mind before the demo is, I've seen that we can also list products through ScanPower. Am I correct, or am I?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. That is good. And do you have a I've seen that you have a repricer option, like a software also, or is it something?
We don't do any repricing, and we don't currently integrate with any repricers. But
yeah, that's what I was about to ask next. Next, there's like a BQ integration that would be amazing. But yeah,
that's on the roadmap for 2023, and we have a couple of different repricers that we talk to, and they're interested in integrating with us. But for us, it's just a matter of bringing up the developer resources.
Of course, priorities and stuff. Yeah, because BQ is the biggest repricer that majorly, like, small time sellers from between 10,000 to 100,000 that they use mainly. So that, if I could say, that would be the one that you should maybe prioritize, but that is on your end to decide, not on mine.
Yeah, so Be Cool, Seller Snap, Aura, those are three that we've considered, but yeah, Be Cool is definitely at the top of the list.
Perfect. That is great to hear.
I just wanted to also introduce you to Package. He's our customer success manager, and he's joined us now. So, Package, this is Amain and Jordan.
Yeah, thank you, Package, to set this up really for your time also.
No problem. Thanks.
Yeah, and so also Paul, before we get started, I had previously just switched to ScanPower this weekend. I'm a previous 2D workflow user, and they've had a very long outage of their software. It's been like almost a week now, and as far as I know, it's still not up, because they were doing something to integrate in the new App Store, Amazon's API, and they didn't do it correctly. So I looked for other options, and ScanPower was recommended to me quite a while ago from James McConnell out of Marketplace Prep in Texas. He highly recommends it.
James is a friend and a very knowledgeable guy.
He's one of the only guys I feel stupid when I talk to.
and I'm an old guy, so he makes me feel even more so because he's so young.
Right.
Actually, James and I talk pretty often, and he's always giving suggestions for features and different workflows to support, and as 2D workflows is discovering the hard way, like the transition from the old API to the current one was pretty lumpy at the end, because Amazon restricted the things that we could do through the inbound shipment API in a way that all the other API changes were more or less a one-to-one or like-to-like mapping, but the shipment changes they made, even though there weren't a lot, those were pretty painful. And so we scrambled in December and decided not to release our selling partner API changes until the very end of the year, because we didn't want to subject users to that any sooner than we could. But I think 2D Workflow was, trying to do the same thing. I mean, I don't know them that well, but I'm familiar with them, and I know that there's a lot of people who depend on them. And what we ended up doing, and I'll show you in the demo, is we pretty drastically changed how we handle listing and how we show shipment plans and things like that to work around the new selling partner API restrictions. So that's something I can show you, but it required us to rethink something that we had been doing for years and years and years in terms of merging shipments that are to the same destination, being able to adjust quantities of items that are already in shipments. All of that stuff just went out the window with the new API changes. So it's, I feel for them because it's a painful process. But so what would you like for the demo?
You must have seen more sign up lately in the last week or two because of the shutdown that they have.
I think we've seen an uptick in users, probably coming from them and some others that, Okay, so I have another person who's asking to be admitted, but I'm not sure. Do you know someone named Daniel Rock?
Yep, he's part of our community as well.
All right, I'm going to let him in.
I may have another friend joining in, maybe. I'm not sure 100%, just to let you know, just in case.
Yeah. Happy to
Hey, Dan.
add them.
Hey, what's going on?
How's it going?
Oh.
Hey, Dan, this is Paul Retherford. I'm the founder and owner of ScanPower, and with me is Pankaj. He's the customer success manager, so he'll be hopefully responding to your questions and concerns if you do end up signing up and getting going.
Okay.
By the way, just to let you know, Paul, I'm on the clock. I'm at work, but I'm at home. So if something happens, I need to hop off. I'll be back as soon as I'll be able.
Okay, sure, no problem. All right. Well, if anyone else joins, we'll add them.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and share my screen. Let me pop over here. Every day I have more tabs open than I think is humanly possible.
Yeah.
Hey, really quick, if I unmute my mic and you guys talk, can you guys hear echo of yourselves or no?
I don't right now.
You good? Okay. Cool.
Okay. So I'm sharing my screen. When you first log into ScanPower, you get a dashboard that, because this is just tied to my test account, you're not going to see a lot of sales. I'm not an active seller on Amazon, so I say this to people all the time that I certainly have sold on Amazon in the past, and I understand the process, but I found that it is not possible to be to create great software and also be a seller on Amazon. I think you kind of, at least at our scale, you kind of have to choose one. And my background is in computer science, and I was the original developer of ScanPower, although I don't do as much development now. But I do say that we get all of our best ideas for the product from our sellers. And so, any suggestions that you have for features, any suggestions for improvements in the workflow, things that would save you time or save you money or both, we're always open to that, and we kind of organize our releases and the roadmap for the product based on feedback from sellers. So it's not, you know, it's not a question of something that I built for myself, because that's not the case. It's something that I've built for a large group of you know, like-minded sellers. So I see that Swift would like to be added.
That is my friend. Yep.
Okay. All right. So the main screen is probably would be more interesting if I was showing, you know, one of your accounts, but it's like a trailing 4 weeks of profit, P&L. It's expenses where if we're tracking your cost of goods, you know, anything that you list with us, if you give us the cost, we'll track it and we'll attach it to the order if that item sells. We have always done this in a very granular way. So if you buy the product 4 times in the month at different prices and from different suppliers, we will track it, you know, at as granular a level as it needs to be. And then just based on when you purchase the item, we'll use FIFO to attach it to the order when it comes in. So I'll show you, you know, there are different places where you can give us cost or price or source or things like that. But we, you know, if you give it to us, we'll track it. And then the dashboard also has a place where we downloaded settlement reports, and you can view those individually, not in the same detail that you can in Seller Central, but you can basically see payouts and fees and things. And you can also, you know, if you want to like select multiple ones and view those together, you can do that as well. And then anytime we do releases, we, you know, if it's something of interest to you, we're going to throw that into this recent updates section. So when you first log in, that's often something I would recommend just browsing. And you know, if you're interested in kind of the frequency and the types of updates that we do, you can go back in time and, you know, look at features and fixes and things that we've added. We typically do 1 release per week, and so oftentimes it's like a small feature or a collection of features and fixes, but we try to iterate pretty quickly with, you know, both responding to customer requests and to you know, add things in response to changes from Amazon. So from the main screen, the box menu is probably where you'll spend the most time. And then there's some reports, and then there's inventory, which is primarily just a view of your inventory by MSKU. And then Buylist is a notion of something that you've told us you're purchasing, but may not yet be in inventory. So I think Inventory Lab has a similar notion. But the idea is you can use a Google Sheet, you can use our mobile app, which runs on the web, and you can tell us, you know, I bought something, you know, at this cost, and if it's profitable, you can add it to the buy list. You can tell us where you bought it. You can apply discounts. You can set expiration dates, you know, and when it's on the buy list, it just means it's going to be, I mean, you can view it. Sorry, clicked on the wrong thing. You can view it on the buy list, but you can also just list that item by UPC or by MSKU or whatever, and we'll remember, you know, everything that you gave us. So we know when it was purchased, we know the price, we know the cost, source. You know, if it doesn't have an MSKU already, we can generate one for you based on a template. So you can say, I want, you know, ASIN, the purchase date, the cost, whatever, you know, whatever the case, you could say, I want that in. And this one has been, yeah, like this one was already in inventory because I was testing with it. But
just
yeah,
to be
so
sure,
we'll,
the MSKU is the SKU that is going to be shown in Seller Central, right?
yes.
Okay.
And we're syncing your inventory, and if you have this in your inventory, we always restock by default, but you can also generate a new MSKU if you like. There's a place to, you know, change it to case packed if you wanted to. Shopper, it recorded this from the buy list. And so if I add this to the batch, then it's going to be in a batch, and we will automatically go out and get a shipping plan for items that are added to a batch. And you can add items to a batch in, I'll just hide that shipment list there for now. So batches are on the left side. You can add items to a batch individually. You can scan something in. You can, you know, type in the, you know, you can type in the title. You can import from a spreadsheet, or if you had a bunch of items on the buy list, you could just import directly from the buy list by, you know, selecting those items individually.
So just to understand, let's say the buy list is a list that is not inside my Seller Central, so it's not an item that is okay. And then once it goes from the buy list and then I choose it, will it create a new SKU automatically, or will I have to list it on ScanPower from the buy list and then I can put it in a batch in a shipment?
You can do either. You can list it into a batch and we'll pull it from the buy list, or if it's, you know, just say there's no buy list and you list this item fresh. So you scan it in. You can just say, you know, create a new MSKU. You can choose the price, the cost, the source right here, and that will save all the information. So it doesn't have to go to the buy list. That's just if you had outside sources or outside shoppers that you wanted to see these items. You can also, you know, you also don't have to add this information. But
hey, Paul, sorry, I had a couple questions. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Not at all.
So where we're at right now, so you mentioned before on the previous screen that ScanPower will pull through prices for anything that you upload directly into ScanPower. Is there any way to include cost from items not imported directly into ScanPower that just come from Seller Central?
So when I say cost, I mean what you paid for an item.
Yes.
Prices will come.
So yeah,
either from your inventory or from, like, what are you asking if we could like default to the Buybox price?
No, sorry. I'm actually talking about the cost. So like, for example, I did a shipment with ScanPower this past weekend. I imported a shipment from Seller Central, so I had not made it in ScanPower. I'm wondering if it's possible to include the cost for those items, or do they have to be imported into ScanPower directly first?
It's a lot easier if they start in ScanPower because you can see the cost in the shipment if it's just been imported, but you don't have a place to edit it easily. Although I'll show you, if you do go to Buylist and click on Show Listed, you can see all the items that were already listed, and you can certainly, you know, download this and adjust the cost and re-upload them to ScanPower. But ideally, you provide us with the cost and create the shipment in ScanPower, because it's just so.
Okay,
If
perfect.
it's in a batch, even if you forgot to put the cost in and it turns into a shipment, you can go back to the batch and update the cost after the fact. But right now we don't have an easy way to do that on imported shipments.
Okay, perfect. And then with this as well, I had seen a video of yours where you had shown an example of a Google Sheets add-on or application to auto pull items from a spreadsheet. Does that still work? And does it still work as you originally showed it as well?
Yeah, in fact, I think nothing changes, although Pankaj was with me on the call. We need to update. There's a solution that refers to it, and that has been moved to a different folder. So I do need to update that, and I'll paste it into the call here so you can see it. So
Yeah, because like right now, with my workflow, and I imagine many others' workflow, is I do have a Google Sheet where we keep track of our orders when we purchase things. And so if we can list directly from that Google Sheet directly into Boxt or ScanPower, that would be a huge time saver.
yeah, so this is the find the Zoom stuff. There it is. That's a link to the article. Let me just move the article into the right folder, and then I was told that that link didn't work the last time.
It looks like it worked on my end. It just went directly to the knowledge base, though.
Oh, so it didn't go to the article itself?
No, it just went to the main knowledge base.
Okay, I'm gonna fix that. Help desk is a little bit unfriendly when it comes to adjusting these articles. But I will do that. I won't force you guys
No
to
problem.
watch that, but I will do that at the end of the call so that that's published under the new boxed folder.
Okay.
But yeah, it's called Manage and Import OA and Wholesale Buys.
Cool.
And there's a template at the bottom that you can download, and then you don't have to use that template, but which, the key things are what are the information that's on row 2 has to be in whatever spreadsheet you use, and then you need some of the columns in row 6. And once you have the sheet set up, you just want to make sure you download. There's a workspace add-on, from ScanPower that you can search for and download. But those are the 3 pieces.
With that, because you mentioned it, like I definitely understand certain information has to be in certain places. But for example, like say the ASIN column, does it specifically have to be in column A, or can it pull it from any column?
It just has to be there. It doesn't have to be in column 1 or column A.
Okay, cool.
Yes, and you can obviously have other columns as long as the ones that we care about are there. You can kind of keep everything in a master sheet, or the user that we just talked to had a master purchase sheet, and hers was for OA buys, that if she wanted something on the buy list, she would check a box next to the item, and then it would copy it to a simpler template like the one that we supply.
That's exactly what I was thinking about doing. I was thinking about doing
Yeah.
exactly that.
Now you also, so it's designed so that you can say, I only want these 5 items, and you can select just those rows and import them into ScanPower, so you don't have to select everything. And what we'll do is we'll like change the color of the ASIN to green to indicate that it's been imported. But you can play around with whichever approach works best for you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question. And I don't know. I don't mean to take up too much time because I don't know how many people here have actually used ScanPower. Personally, I have not. I still do the old-fashioned Seller Central way. Could we just kind of go through briefly like the overall workflow of like how you go from start to finish, like what it looks like?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. Like, if let's say I have 10 units, how would I go to get the units listed, get it in the batch, and then put it in a shipment, and then
like even printing like FN SKUs and
yeah, all of that. Yeah, like let's say like we have a certain SKU that we want to add and ship it to a fulfillment center. What would be the step by step, just generally to see how?
Yeah, let me just grab.
Before going through that, I just wanted to know. Sorry to cut you off again. For the listing, does it go from Box, or do we have like a page, like a dedicated page in ScanPower to list stuff, and then we would go into Box, and then we would do all the labeling and all the prepping, or would it go directly through Box in the same step when we are batching items?
Yeah, it'll go directly into Box. So I'll just use this. I'll just use this dark chocolate pistachios as an example.
Yeah, let's go. If we don't have it in ScanPower, let's say it's a brand new item, it's a brand new SKU, and we didn't have it anywhere else in ScanPower.
Okay.
What are the steps?
All right, I'm not sure I can sell this, but we're going to find out. All right, so you're in ScanPower. There's 2 setup steps that everyone needs to do. One is if we don't have your ship from location, there's a manage locations where you add that address at the bottom here, and this is a mixture of sources, suppliers, and ship from addresses, so that's a little confusing, but basically you just add your warehouse location or your ship from address at the bottom and save it, and then it will appear here under locations. And obviously you could select all locations, but when it comes to creating a batch for a listing, you need to be able to select the location. So that's step 1. Step 2, we try to configure the settings so that they're defaulting to something useful, but there's a few settings that it would be helpful to understand, and I can go through those at the end, but primarily, we're going to restock by default. We're probably going to show you Amazon's prep guidance, which is just what Amazon thinks the item needs for prep, but that's not necessarily the truth. It's just that's what they think it needs.
Yeah.
And then you have some options of changing that. There's under listing, there's show hide show hide columns. So, if everything's new condition, maybe you don't need the condition information. If you don't care about the category, or we're now able to pull in storage types for like your restock limits. If you don't care about that kind of stuff, select and deselect what you need. And then, we can automatically check if you're restricted from listing something. We can only show you it's restricted if it's new condition. So even, you can sell it in new condition, but maybe you can't in used or acceptable or whatever. This will not throw up the restriction warning unless it's new. And then this is the MSKU kind of template that I was talking about. So given what you want to be in your MSKU, you can have us generate it for you. based on these templates, but you don't have to. Like if you list a new item and you have your MSKU already, you just type it in. So it's really up to you. And then the big thing is under printing, just like Inventory Lab, we have a way of talking directly to the printer from our browser. So there's some setup depending on whether you're Dymo or Zebra. We're going to support direct printing on Rollo very soon, but for now, you'll just see the print dialog if you have a Rollo set up. So I would go into printing and just select your printer instructions here and make sure the label type, your label size is correct and that you got the printing working. And then there's a whole bunch of print related options that you can do. Like, we can print an expiration date on the label if it's the 30334 labels. We can include things like the fulfillment center ID on the label, things like that. So setting up your location and making sure printing works are probably the two highest priority things to do before you start listing. And then once you've selected a location, we're going to just start a new batch with no PO. A PO is just a wrapper around one or more batches. It can correspond to an order for product that you have, but you're going to import a PO if you like as a spreadsheet, and that can be the basis for your shipment. But we're going to do just individual listing for now, and then we can cover spreadsheet import and some of the other flows later. So location at the top, this is the input bar where things that you scan will go here. And then at the bottom, there's a global search bar that basically searches across all of your working batches and working shipments, as well as any archived shipments. So if you had some product that you're pretty sure you sent in a previous shipment, or you just need to research something, you can type in, the title, the ASIN, the UPC, whatever into this global search, and we'll tell you, not only. So I'm just going to search for this FNSKU as an example. So if you search for this, we'll tell you that it was sent in these batches. It was in this IND9 shipment, and it was in box 1 of that IND9 shipment. So it's a good research tool if you're not sure about some product, whether it got sent out or whether it still needs to be received or whatnot. So that's the global search at the bottom there. And then that search is context aware. So whatever is selected either in batches or shipments, you're going to see, that updated here in the search. So we're in the package test batch, which generated an IND9 shipment. And with the IND9 shipment, we're going to see all the boxes that were a part of that shipment. So everything is in one place. Everything is kind of context aware. And, this is where you'll spend most of your time. So we have a new product. We want to list it. Sorry, that wasn't the product I wanted to list. Let's grab this casing again. We have a new product we want to list. I'm not restricted from selling it. We're going to be creating a new MSKU. This MSKU was generated from my template in settings, but you could just as easily enter your own MSKU here. And you can provide, price and cost and source if you like. If you're curious about, like, if your price and your cost, let's say this is 15, cost is 4, and you're not sure if that is profitable, you can click on offers and we'll search it up at that price and that cost and give you net payout here, so you can see what your fees are going to be. And there's also a setting that lets you set an inbound shipping cost per pound. and I believe I have that set here. So yeah, I've got 22 cents a pound set. In any case, when you're listing, and if you care about or need to check profitability, you can click on this offers link and we'll pop it up here. We'll show you Keepa information. You can switch it to 30 days. You can see the average price and the rank for that time period that you selected. You can see this looks like it was back ordered. There's one FBA seller. The blues are, merchant fulfilled sellers. All the product sourcing information, rank, weight,
And what
number
can we
of
see
offers.
the Buybox on here?
Are you asking where can you see the buy box?
Yeah, is it?
It's
Okay.
the shopping cart. So whatever
Okay.
has the shopping cart, that's the buy box. Okay, so we're gonna create a new MSKU. We're gonna verify that that doesn't exist in our inventory by clicking the refresh button, and then we can add it to the batch.
And quickly from here, because I see it there, Paul, there was a screen that indicated the expiration date. If you put an expiration date in there, will it automatically pull that expiration date into the shipment as well?
Yes.
Beautiful.
And you can hide the shipments view so that you're just looking at the batch view. In the same way, if you're packing the item, you can kind of hide the batch and just show the shipment view, but you can also just leave it so that everything's there. Now, I have an option called warehouse mode turned on, and this is by default. Warehouse mode takes whatever quantity I set, and that's the ordered quantity. So there's, we could talk about how this works in the context of like the OA Buylist import, but basically this is warehouse mode is set up for, where you start with a purchase order or a batch that has all the items you're expecting to receive, and then we have different ways that you can go through and actually receive those items. So you can say, yes, I got one of those, save, scan the next item. We have a receiving mode that kind of puts everything in edit mode, and then when you scan the UPC for the product, you can just kind of quickly say, yes, I received one, save, scan the next product, receive it. So these extra quantity columns and the, being able to mark something as damaged, that's available when warehouse mode is on, which is under listing here at the top. So if I turn that off, which for many of you, you won't need it, it just reverts back to a simpler, quantity, cost, price.
And then just really quick about the expiration date, like this is a food item, and so if it was like something that doesn't need an expiration, like a T-shirt or something, will it still show that option there to type it in, or will it know like does it need one or not from Amazon?
So with the new API, we can actually pull an attribute from the catalog that tells us whether it needs an expiration date. We should have that in the next couple of weeks, but for now, it's up to you. If you know it needs an expiration date, you enter it. If you're not sure, you can enter it, or you can leave it off, and we'll catch it at the point that you send the carton feed, which I'll cover shortly.
Right. Okay.
But right now, when we just pull product information back, they're not currently telling us whether it needs expiration date, but we have a way to find that now. So pretty soon it can be a little more intuitive, where if it doesn't need one, we just won't even make it an option.
Yeah, and as long as it's caught like before, you've done all your prep and it's all in a box, and then like in the regular Seller Central way, that happens sometimes where You know, I'll have everything already boxed up, and then I realize, oh, this needs an expiration actually, and then you have to rip everything open and put it
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, so that's coming soon
Cool.
for us to be able to tell you, and which is really useful for cosmetics and other things that
Right.
they shouldn't need it, but they do.
And Dan,
Yeah, go ahead.
sorry, Dan, just to add, just because I used it like this previous weekend. I know like with Boxt and ScanPower, it gives you a lot of flexibility to edit items and boxes on the fly. Obviously, if it needs an expiration date, you have to rip it open, put a new label on there, but it's very easy to do it in this system.
It was more so like the process in the workflow. Like, at what point will it tell you? You know, will it tell you before you do all the work, or will it get caught at some point beforehand? So as long as it notifies you at some point, then yeah, that's ideal.
Sure.
So the workflow for items that don't exist in your inventory is you add it, we decorate it with this no listing exists label, and you click create listings. And if this batch, and so up here, you know, we'll also say this item has no listing. And so when you click create listings, it's working in the background to send product and inventory feed. And if you have this quick setting, send price feed when creating listings, you probably want to make sure that's turned on, because we all know what happens to items that don't have a price. So this will work in the background, and then when those feeds are successful, we will update, you know, this top part saying it's success. This label goes away, and then you'll be able to create shipments. I mean, in the meantime, you could still, you know, you could still add more items to the batch. So I'm just gonna, you know, randomly. So this is an example of something that needs dimensions. So we have a screen that lets you enter the dimensions, and then that works similar to the feed, and that it will just process until those feeds are successful. If you're ever curious about the status of the feed, because it's all happening kind of behind the scenes, you can go under the box menu and go into feeds, and you know, you can see we've submitted the product feed about a minute ago. It's submitted, and then these other ones are waiting for this one to finish processing before they get picked up. But that's just a view of what's happening in the background.
So everything up until this point has been, whether you already have the product in your inventory and you're replenishing it, or you're adding a new product, everything is the same. You input the ASIN at the top and then add it, and then if the listing does, then you would select it here and press create listing.
Yeah. So if you have a mixture of restocks and new items, you want to create listings first, because with the new API, you want as much, you know, you want to get a shipment plan for as many of the items ahead of time as you can, so that you avoid splits or needing to create all these extra shipments.
Right.
So with that, Paul, like, so for example, if you're doing a mixed shipment and you have, say, like half replens, half new SKUs, and say you want to just upload them all at once, can you upload them all at once in this screen and then click create listings, and it'll only create listings for the new ones, or do you have to do the new listings first?
No, you can upload them all at once, and if it's a mixture of restocks and new listings, we'll only submit the ones that are new.
Okay, cool.
And while we're waiting for this to process, there's something that I'll show you that may be useful. Like, this is a very large batch, you know, it's got 233 SKUs. And so these items aren't in shipments yet, but we go out and get a shipping plan for everything that's in the batch, and we'll update that shipping plan if you add new items to the batch. So one thing that you can do with ScanPower that I think is kind of unique is you can filter by the shipment destination and just send those items that were part of, that FC. So here I've got, of the almost 300 units, 219 are going to IND9. If I want, I can create the shipment for just these items, and then later create shipments for these other ones. So especially if you're dealing in, mixed SKUs and larger volumes, that ability to filter by the destination FC is really useful. Because if I click create shipment now, it's going to show me all the shipments, which sometimes you want, but sometimes you just want to send, or work on a single shipment at a time, so you can filter by that shipment. But again, this is a preview, so we haven't actually created the shipment yet. It's just the plan that we got back from Amazon for the items in the batch. And each one is kind of decorated with that, where it's going. So because I had everything selected, I've got 7 shipments, but I also had the option just saying, I only want the IND9s. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's cool. And those
Okay.
are those are just chosen based on like oversized units and stuff like that. They have to go to different locations and whatnot, and then you would just send it all, make them in separate shipments. Is that kind of the purpose of this?
Or it's just depending on capacity, and like if your account is if they want more of these quantities, then oftentimes you're going to get like a common close by, distribution center. But if you're sending maybe a little more than they want of certain products, they might send it to, a different FC, because, this is just kind of our most recent analysis of Amazon's shipping plan logic. But in addition to that, you'll also see, because in the API, see how this one says, IND9 no label or NL. Some of these are commingled items, so those get split off to, even though they're going to the same fulfillment center, they have to get split off into a separate shipment.
Yeah, I guess I just never even paid attention to it when doing it manually. You just, you put in your shipment. Okay. There's no oversized, then, it gives you some fulfillment center, and you just send it there. And then I guess they do FC transfers later on.
Yeah, and it'll be about the same, if that's what you're used to. I'm showing some combinations of stuff that may not actually go together, but like this one is case packed, and so it, again, through the API, you can't create case packed and regular shipments together. They get split into separate. So CP is a case packed shipment.
Cool.
Okay, so if we go back to the batch that we started with, we listed a new item, we clicked create listings, the feeds were successful, and now we're ready to create a shipment for this. So it says one to be determined. We clicked on create shipment, and it says, this is going to IND9. So if we click OK here, it's going to create the shipment. If you know you're going to add more items to the batch, you can just kind of leave it in the preview state and add more items until you actually want to create the shipments. So at this point, you can prep, you can label, you can have it print labels as you receive it. You can have it, print labels on demand. As I mentioned before, you can have it print a separate expiration date label, or you can have it print the expiration date on the FSKU label. So there's lots of different options.
And you can do all
But-
that in the preview screen before you actually create the shipment. You can just build out your batch and print out your labels, and then when you're done with everything you need,
Yeah.
then you press create shipment.
Yeah, so you could print all the labels, together. You could sort them in different ways. You can print expiration date labels separately, and then once this is ready to go, you click create shipment, and we click OK here. Then it's going to actually create the shipment, and you now have a view that's basically an unpacked shipment. So the shipment is currently set to small parcel. If you wanted to change it to LTL, you just click the edit button. We also default to a content feed rather than 2D barcodes. If you want to use 2D barcodes, you can just select 2D barcode as your content source here. You can also say all new shipments, I want to default to default box content source. You can set that in settings to 2D if you want. We recommend sending a carton feed, and the reason for that is primarily because we think it's possible that, one, we don't have any evidence that 2D barcodes are received faster than carton contents. In fact, you would expect it to be the opposite, since Amazon, when you send them a carton feed, they know before the items ever left your building what's in it. Before the shipments ever left your building, they know what's in it. So it would seem like those might receive faster, but we don't, we're not trying to push you one way or the other. It's just when you send a carton feed, Amazon will tell you if any item is missing an expiration date. So that's kind of that's a worthwhile, like, extra guardrail. But
I had a question earlier. Just I'm sorry to go back to the stuff, but it made me aware about something when we were talking about expiration date. Is, let's say we have a new batch of the same product that we used to sell, but the thing is the expiration date is a new one, and the cost of good has gone up because inflation or stuff, or maybe gone down or gone up. So how would we do that in ScanPower to just, let's say, well, this new quantity of items that we got, we want to, only for this new quantity of item, we want to change the cost of good and the expiration date without using the same one that we used in the past?
So in ScanPower, that every time you list it, you can give it a new cost and a new expiration date.
And then
Okay, so you give it a new cost, but
Yes.
how would you see the difference between, oh, this is the old batch and this is a new batch?
the quantity, right? Because you input, like, let's say you bought 30 new units. This is what
Yep.
I think how it works. And then, yeah, you said first in, first out, right? So the first 30 you sent would be the one expiration, then the next 30 would be under the new cost and new expiration, right?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for the clarification.
So when this item goes into a shipment, it turns gray, and you see the shipment ID and the quantity next to the shipment ID. So if you had items in the batch that were unshipped, they would look like this, and then the shipped ones show clearly that. Sorry, someone else had a question.
You were trying to talk, but I don't think your mic's picking it up.
Yeah, I think it's Swift that trying to ask a question, but we're not hearing him. It's cutting off.
Yeah, if you want to throw it into the chat, we can also look there for the question. So once the shipment's created, you're in kind of packing mode, and the way Box works is if it's an LTL shipment, then you're going to get a menu down at the bottom called bulk pallet update. If it's not, you'll just get one called bulk box update. And the way things work in Boxt is, if you're filling a box, you add the box, and then you can just scan items into the box. So I'm just going to copy this FNSKU. So this product's labeled. I've started a box. I'm going to scan it, and that item's going to get added to the box. And then if I had more of them, I could keep scanning, or I can, adjust the quantity. And the way Boxt works is, you fill a box and then you add another box, and then you fill that box and you add another box. If you're dealing in quantities, you can actually, fill one box with, say one box holds 15 of these units. You can put 15 in a box, and then you can say, okay, I've got, 200 of them. I'm just going to copy box and make, what would that be?
Not an even number, I don't think.
Yeah, right. I'm going to make 5 more boxes with 15. And so you can kind of quickly generate those. You can print box labels. You can print box labels as you go. You can print this box every time you start a new box. So you have lots of options for how you pack things. And then the way it is when it's an LTL shipment, every new box goes on the current pallet, and then if you need to add a second pallet, you just say add pallet, and then we don't have enough units to pack a third box. But if you can see how it works. You just add another box, that automatically goes on the second pallet, and you keep going.
And with this, Paul, I noticed that in the settings, we do have an option to auto set a standard box size. I was wondering if there's options to set multiple pre-configured box sizes.
There aren't yet, but that's definitely a feature request that we've had, and I don't have an ETA on it, but yeah, we're gonna let you choose from standard box sizes that you define.
Cool. Yeah,
Is that something that 2D Workflow does?
No, they do not. So 2D Workflow, as of right now, they don't have any option to do any default box sizes.
Okay.
I think that would be a very nice feature to have. Obviously the one is nice, but to have say 3, 4, 5 different sizes, because we only use 3 different sizes standard ourselves. So to have a drop down where we can choose small, medium, large, that would be killer.
Yeah, and we definitely have that on our roadmap. I'll have to get back to you on what the ETA is for that.
Sure.
I don't know if it's been prioritized, but we've had enough people ask for it, and it kind of falls into that category of things that are super easy to do and so useful.
Yep.
Sometimes, in software we try to do the hard things and they don't add as much value as some of the really simple things. So
yeah, because
that's a perfect example.
I could just see a feature with that, especially with new employees, make it a little bit more dummy proof, so somebody doesn't accidentally, when they're doing a box that's say 46 centimeters by 46 centimeters, they don't actually accidentally type 468. Obviously Amazon will catch that, but it just creates less of potential errors.
Right. And that error can pop up in weird places, but just as soon as they click add a box, you make them choose which box they're adding. I don't know if you caught that because I went fast, but
yep.
What we would do is where you click add a box, we would just say, all right, what size is the box?
Yeah, that would be beautiful.
So there's a number of different packing workflows. One of the things that, just by working with so many different sellers and prep centers and 3PLs, we support a lot of different ways to do things. So it's mainly about figuring that out in your warehouse and then configuring Box to do what you need it to do. We have something called touchless packing, which is like if you really want to blast through inventory. When touchless packing is on, you're just scanning things, and we will stick it in the last box that you packed it into. So you scan it and throw it in the box. Scan it, throw it in the box, and then you can create a new box, and then the first item that you scan into the new box will become the default. So there's some things like that. We also support packing into multiple shipments. So let's say you had 5 or 6 working shipments, and maybe I'll unpack this just in case we want to use it. So let's say you have 5 working shipments and you want to pack them all, and your items are not sorted. So from the case of our big batch where we had hundreds of items, let's say that we just fired off those 5 shipments. We could just move those items down the line, and you could scan, scan the FNSKU, and we would show you all the shipments that it's unpacked in, and then you could just say, yeah, I want to plop that into the IMD9 shipment, and then you could scan the next item, and in this case, nothing is unpacked, everything's in a box, so you would know that. But there's a kind of an unsorted packing flow where you just scan the item and we'll tell you what shipments it's going into. And then there's the kind of directed flow where you're building box by box for each shipment. And there's variations on that. Box labels. So we have the option to print, a 2D barcode label by itself, an FBA box label by itself, or both of them separate, or both of them unified. We don't yet support printing like a 3-way label that has the FNSKU and the box label, but that is definitely coming soon. So once you set your box preference, then when you print box labels, we'll remember that, and 4 by 6 here, but yeah. So this is gonna print a unified label that looks like this. It has both the 2D and the FBA box label on it.
I'm super happy that you brought that up, because those are labels I'm very familiar with, similar to 2D workflow. And when I used ScanPower or Boxt over the weekend, I printed 2D barcodes. It just had the 2D barcode. I was like, what the hell's going on? I was wondering why it looked so strange.
Yeah, so that's down here under print box labels. So it's a button right in the middle of the bottom. And once you set which one you want, we'll remember it. This like if I had 150 or 500 boxes, I could print selected boxes from here, but that's where that setting gets saved. And you can also print a box label while you're in the box, and it just prints the box label for that one.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's the listing and packing workflow in a nutshell. Once this shipment is packed, if you are doing 2D barcodes, then this button that says send contents would just say purchase shipping. Because we've got content source to feed, we're going to tell Amazon in a feed what's in the, let me delete that, and then I'm going to say this is 22 inches high and it's 100. This is really not it's really not an LTL shipment, but you get the idea. So when when you're sending contents and purchasing shipping, you can either say, I want partnered shipping, and then you can fill in your information, set the value of the item, and it's ready to ship date. Or if it's non-partnered, you just give us the pro number, and we'll send it, we'll pass that on to Amazon when you click OK.
With that,
And so, sorry, go ahead.
With that, Paul, I also had another question because over the weekend when I was using Boxt, or rather yesterday, I went to go purchase shipping. So again, we were using 2D barcodes, and we were able to purchase shipping directly through Amazon doing that. But then it never produced. Whoa, I hear a big echo there. It never ended up producing labels directly in Boxt. We had to go into Seller Central and get those labels ourselves. Would there be a particular reason why?
No, and was it small parcel?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
So yeah, ours was 2D, so it said purchase shipping. We purchased shipping. We were able to purchase shipping directly through Boxt.
Was it partnered?
Yes, it was. And then
Okay.
we never. It said that the feed was sent. Like I said, it was updated, but we were never able to print the labels directly in Boxt.
Okay. Well,
Sorry, Paul, you're kind of cutting off there.
It should be. You can research your information because that, I'm not sure why it didn't pull down the shipping labels, but the way it normally works is you click the estimated. Looks like my internet is not good right now. Sorry about that. Can everyone still hear me?
Yeah.
You were out a little bit there, but you're good now.
Yeah. So when you send contents, it will say estimating, and it'll say feed sent, and then once we get the estimate back from Seller Central, it changes to a link. That's the estimate. If you agree to the estimate, then it should tell Amazon, yes, we agree to this estimate, and then pull back. It should say confirmed, and we should be able to download the shipping labels.
Yeah, see,
now,
this is the only screen that we had where it says the print shipping labels button will be available after the feed finishes, and after waiting like 15, 20, 30 minutes, that the print shipping labels button never came up.
Okay. So the reason, I'm guessing, because this is what's happening with mine, is I'm guessing Amazon hasn't processed the feed yet, and what you can do to check is go under the feeds thing, the feeds link, and look for the carton feed for the shipment. That's a box content feed, and just check the status there. We're polling for this in the background, but it sounds like the feed just took a really long time to process.
Right.
Or never finished. And if it never finished, so this is what should have happened. So mine just finished, and you should see confirmed, ready to print, and then you should just have this print shipping labels option here.
Okay.
Which unfortunately doesn't split off the box label if you've already printed, but yeah, here's the shipping label. So yeah, I think in your case, I'm going to go ahead and void that, but in your case, it should have come back with confirmed ready to print as soon as the feed succeeded. But if the feed didn't succeed, that would explain why we wouldn't be able to pull the shipping labels yet.
Okay.
So maybe after the call, let's check your account and just verify that feed did succeed.
Sure. Like while we're going through here, I'll just pull up on my end and see if I can see it.
Okay. So if I had, I guess we could demonstrate this. So it's not going to let me, I don't think it's going to let me clear the expiration date out. Maybe it will. Let's go. So we clear the expiration date. And then if we went back and sent the contents and then just say, I don't want to purchase shipping, I'm curious if it'll give us the error that we didn't provide an expiration date. Yeah, so let's just let that process for a minute. Because what normally happens, if you happen to forget an expiration date on something and you send contents, Amazon will fail the feed and they'll tell us which items are missing expiration dates. We'll pop an arrow, a red button on the shipment that you can click on that will take you to this edit expiration date screen and allow you to basically fill in the ones that are missing.
Okay. But even
So if there were 50 items that were missing expiration dates, they would all be listed and you could just kind of quickly fill them in.
But at this point now, it's still giving you the error once you've packed up all your boxes. So once, I guess that's not an issue, but until you said you guys are getting that update where you can pull that information right away, then it would avoid you packing up all your boxes and then realizing you missed something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and like Dan, for example, with that, just because like I come from 2D workflow, they don't do that either. They don't give you any indication if an item needs an expiration date. It's all 100% on you. So
yeah, no one seems to. I even emailed SellerAmp. I'm like, yo, can you like get like a little thing that'll tell you if you need expiration or not? And they're like, oh no, we can't or something. So it seems to be a thing that may be difficult to find. I don't know.
It's not something that Amazon's had in the API until, and I haven't actually seen it in person. I know it exists now, and I've added it. You know, our developers know about it and they're going to be working on it. But I think it's just recently made its way into the API.
Yeah, no, that'll be cool. Yeah, there's your failed shipment.
So then, you know, if I click on this, it'll say that it failed. It'll say the expiration date is missing for the SKU. Unfortunately, like, because I had already voided the shipment, I think that's why it didn't pop here. But normally the red arrow would pop right on the shipment, and when you click on it, it'll take you to this screen and filter by those that are missing expiration dates. So it's just convenient. Two things that I was going to show you just real quick, and then happy to answer as many questions as I can. We have these tags that you can add like at the inventory level. So, you know, this shoe, Amazon, you know, claims no prep required, but maybe you want to remind your team to, you know, box and rubber band, and that will follow that item, you know, for as long as it's in ScanPower inventory. So if this is what I'll call an inventory level tag. Any tags or labels that you add to items at the inventory level, every time that item is in a batch, you know, the prepper is going to see that note. This tag we're looking at here on the cake mix, that's what I call a batch level tag. So this is only, and it's pretty clear, like this is under the MSKU and this one is under the title, but this is, say you had a group of stuff that was purchased that maybe a few of them expired and it didn't get caught. You could have your preppers check for that as they were doing it, but it only applies to this batch. So the next time this item is, you know, in a batch, it wouldn't have this tag. If you want it to be, you know, persist, you just put it on at the inventory level. So you would just say double check, blah blah blah.
And when you save those tags like that, do those automatically like save those tags so they're a drop down that you can use continuously over and over?
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So if we add that back to another batch, it should carry that tag with it. And you can also, you can add tags to, we have prep centers and sellers who kind of organize their batches using tags. So they might, they might flag something as hazmat weight to ship, or like I said, sometimes, shipments, maybe there's extra instructions you want to put on the shipment itself, or maybe you just want to, flag things as packed when they're finally packed. It's, it's just kind of a free form way to do stuff like that. Okay, what questions can I answer?
So I did have an additional question. So I believe you may have answered it going through this stuff. But so for example, the first shipment that I did, I had imported a shipment directly from Seller Central, and I had noticed that all the items that were pulled through did not have any weight or dimensions added into it. I imagine that would only be the case that they would be in ScanPower system if they were imported directly into ScanPower. Is that correct?
Yeah, they should be. And I'm trying to think if, so the way that we get weights and dimensions is when we do a product lookup on those. And it may be that we pulled the weight and dimensions after the fact. So I'd be curious if they appeared on the shipment, maybe when you go back into it now, or are they still not showing?
Looking at it right now, all the items are still not showing.
Okay, I'll take a look at that, because that sounds like a bug. We should be pulling that information. We're doing a product lookup and should have access to all of that.
Okay.
I'll make note of that and talk to the developers. But yeah, we would pull that for sure if those items were added to a batch.
And then I also had a question. So, like, obviously, there are some reports, inventory capabilities. You can add things to, if you purchase it, you can basically use like a PO system, so to speak. Could you see ScanPower? I'm not sure if I've seen the features that would be as such, but could you see it being a replacement for a software such as, like, say, SoStocked, that can actually estimate how many units you're selling and advise you how many units you should be purchasing?
I would say that's probably not going to happen this year, just based on what I know we're currently working on. So like better inventory management. Yeah, I think that's something that we've talked about, but we don't have a plan in the near term to do it.
Okay.
We do have a plan to integrate with Amazon's restock report. So depending on when we do that, you would have almost all the information that you need, to make restock decisions. But I don't have an ETA for that yet.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, so like just looking through the shipment, because you discussed it here. So again, my shipment, the content status does indicate confirmed, SPD, content source, 2D barcode. Still no option here to actually print the box labels or the print shipping labels.
Okay. If you can paste in the shipment ID, I'll look at that after the call and figure out what happened.
Sure. So so that's the shipment ID there.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. So I believe that covers everything that I wanted to know.
that was good. Yeah, coming from me too. So I kind of wanted the breakdown of the whole workflow because I do not come from the 2D workflow background. I just do everything manually, but a lot of annoyances with that. So yeah, it's cool to see kind of this workflow and how you can build boxes as you go and print labels as you go. It's all pretty useful. So.
I did have one more question actually, because you mentioned it when you are printing your shipping labels. You mentioned that it will not differentiate. It will not give you the option to only print the FBA labels. It'll also print the box labels as well, even though we've printed box labels on the go. Is there any way to change that?
That's a feature request. What you can do is you can have it so those labels come down as, when they're generated by Amazon, they're basically 8.5 by 11.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 2 up. Under printing settings, you can say split shipping labels. And so when it downloads them, it will split them into 4 by 6. And I believe they are sorted in the sense that shipping labels are separate from box labels. So at least when you go to print them, you can say, I only want the first 4 because those are the shipping labels.
Right.
But yeah, we do have a feature request to kind of get rid of the box labels if they've already been printing and track whether, one of the things I think maybe 2D workflow does is like kind of tell you whether you've printed labels for a box or printed FNSKU labels for an item.
Right.
I don't know if it does, but that's that ability to like segment out the FBA box labels would be part of a feature like that, so that you could track whether your team had printed the labels.
So yeah,
as well.
Like you mentioned, that is a feature in 2D workflow. So if you print box labels on the fly, basically, say you are done with box 1, you print box label 1, that actually closes that box out. You can no longer modify that box unless you delete it and then basically redo it, which obviously ScanPower does not do that, which I actually prefer. But once you actually print the box labels and then you go to print the shipping labels, it only actually generates the shipping labels for you, not the box labels at the same time.
Okay, yeah. And that's, we're already kind of processing that PDF, and so it wouldn't be that hard to, as long as we know like the format of, I think Amazon actually puts them together in their PDF. So
right.
Yeah, that's something I can give you an ETA on next month.
Cool.
Just a question now that you're on this screen right here. I'm just looking at those 2 checkboxes: print item labels when listing or print item labels when packing. What is the difference between, because right now they're both unchecked, so that means we just had to manually press the print item labels, versus if one of those were checked, then at that point in the process it'll just automatically spit out the labels. Is that what that does?
Exactly. If the first one's checked and you scan an item into a batch or you import, a spreadsheet, we will print the item labels
right
as that item is saved in the batch.
Right, after we give it a quantity and whatnot.
And then the second option is if you scan, like you can have a box open and scan the UPC, and we'll print the FNSKU label as you scan it into the box. So you can scan it, apply the label, plop it in the box. So that's print item labels when packing.
Okay, cool. And typically, just like a best practice, like usually you would kind of scan in everything into a batch and then basically convert that batch into a shipment. Like, is there any, I guess you showed kind of the reason for the, like, if you make like a large batch and then, ship out only certain things from that. I guess, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ideal way to do it, just kind of create batches for each shipment or mass upload.
Yeah. So the reason that we've done a couple of things, since upgrading to the SP API. One is this ability to filter by the destination FC. So you have a little more control over, if I'm getting, 90% of my items are going to one place, and then I've got this second shipment that's just, hanging out there that I'm not going to be able to even fill a box. That gives you an option of not only just doing the one shipment, but we also added this copy move feature. So let's say that we had these no label items, and there are only 5 of them, and we know that we know that we have another batch with some no label items. You could do this select items and then grab those items and say, I want to move these. You could copy them as well. I want to move these to the batch that we just created. And then they'll come into, I think this is the one. Yeah. So that they'll get moved or copied into, you know, another batch that may have those items that you want. I wonder if I probably selected copy all. I'm seeing a lot more items, but yeah, I thought I was only taking 5 units, but in any case, this gives you an option to kind of collect things together and shift items into batches as you see fit, and so you can kind of create the optimal shipment size.
Okay, yeah, that's cool.
So because you're also mentioning this as well, I know 2D Workflow has done some tomfoolery with some of the things that they do, and I understand how it works, but like with their process right now, which I do not know if it'll work with the new API, is basically if you want to add new items or merge new items into an existing shipment, their system does that for you. From my understanding is their system just automatically makes a new shipment, puts all those items into that new shipment, then deletes the old one for you. Does Box have any type of features like that?
No, and I don't think it's going to be possible with the new API.
Yeah.
Because we used to support a similar workflow where, I mean, we could always, you know, ScanPower could always merge shipments that were going to the same destination, but you had this notion of, you know, being able to update the quantity on something. So for, I don't have it turned on, but, or sorry, it's, if I unpack this, I'll show you. Right now with the new API, you can't add new MSKUs to an existing shipment, and you can't update quantities in any kind of large way like you could before. Like before, we could just remove this item from the shipment and re-add it.
Right.
And now Amazon's new API does not let you do that.
Right. So yeah, like that's one thing that like 2D Workflow technically still does, but I know like their system, it just straight goes in, deletes the shipment, and makes a brand new shipment for you. But that also produced problems, especially if you're getting close to like restock limits. Because when I did that,
Yeah.
I was basically at my restock limits at the time, and then all of a sudden Amazon could not create that new shipment because I was already at the restock limits, and it's pulling those limits from both of the shipments, right?
Yeah, and I don't know how, and it doesn't update your restock limits. You know, I think it's every 24 hours or even 48. So like you can only do that so much, and then you're going to have to kind of let the restock limits catch up and hope that Amazon doesn't ding you for deleting a bunch of shipments.
For sure. And like, yeah, the time I did that where that happened, it ended up being more of a pain in the ass than what it should have been, because like we ended up having to basically delete shipments, wait until it get updated, and then make a brand new shipment, and we had to like relabel boxes and everything, which was just a big pain.
Yeah, so that, I mean, I have to be honest, like I haven't even considered doing something like that with ScanPower because it just seems, you know, seems like it's got pain written all over it.
Right.
But we certainly, yeah, we'll certainly consider any feature that we think isn't too far outside of Amazon's guidelines and still gets the job done for you. So, you know, if there's a variation on that you can think of, we experimented a lot with this new API, and we tried every way that we could to try to continue doing the things that we used to do, like merging shipments and adjusting quantities in significant ways. And the best thing that we came up with is what I showed you with the with the batch preview is, before the shipment gets created, that's when you mess with your quantities, mess with your destinations. Like you can pull down the shift key and you can regenerate this. Say you generated this yesterday and you come back today and you want to see, are the splits any more favorable? Sometimes they can be. So you can hold down the shift key and click, create shipment again, and we'll go out and
Nice.
get you a shipping plan for all these items. So to me, that it just spend a little more time on the front end, messing with combinations of inventory and quantities, before you actually create shipments, because we don't see a good way of dealing, of manipulating things once the shipments are created.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, if they can pull it off and deal with all of the associated baggage, then more power to them.
Well, the time that I did do it, it was a pain in the ass, so I didn't try after that.
Well, thanks everyone. I know I've gone pretty long with this demo, and I appreciate your time. And if anything, like any other questions come up, or you just want to like hop back on a Zoom to cover something specific, we're happy to do that. So
no, really, thank you, Paul, for all the time. It was really enlightening. Maybe next time in the future, maybe we could see how we would set up the report and inventory stuff and see how it would work. But I'm gonna start with having a shipment to be sent this week. So I'll go through what you have showed us, and if there's anything coming up, I'm not gonna hesitate to email you.
Okay. And Jordan, do we have a ticket already open from you?
No, we do not.
Okay. I will create one, and then I'll also attach a link to this recording in addition to researching your shipment issue.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Paul.
Thanks everyone.
All right.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone.